Good evening and welcome to the City of Lemon Grove's regular City Council meeting. I'd like to remind everyone to silence their cell phones. I'm gonna check my own. Okay, we're good. City Clerk, will you please call the roll of the City Council members to go on the record as in attendance?
Councilmember Heredia,
Here.
Here.
Councilmember Altamirano,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza,
Here.
Mayor Snow.
Here.
Mayor Snow, we have a quorum of the City Council.
Thank you so much. Will all please stand and I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Mayor Snow, I have no changes to tonight's agenda.
Perfect. We also have no presentations today, so now we will move on to the general public comment portion of the meeting. Please note that the public may express their concerns not pertaining to items on the agenda. According to state law, the City Council is not allowed to respond to any comments that are expressed that are not on the agenda. However, we will have direct staff to follow up with you if you have additional questions. So if you want follow-up from the staff, please make sure that you indicate so to our clerk, and we will make sure that someone follows up with you. All remarks must be addressed to the City Council as a body and not to an individual council member, and each person will be given a maximum of 3 minutes. When speaking, please observe the green, yellow, and red light timer at the podium. We'll now begin calling on speakers. Our first speaker is Brenda Hammond.
Hi, I heard back there.
Is this working? I know. Come down and check it. Oh.
Did I do that? You're lost. Hi, I left my balloons in the car, sorry. I wanna say what I didn't say last time. H2H, hurt to heal, hurt to help. Hurting people to help people is not nice. And I hope, I see that, the elections are coming up, and I hope nobody's gonna piggyback on immigrants and homeless, because I see that already. And then, when you fill the empty seat, could you please vote for experience and not, with your sorrow? Sorry, I have to say that we need experienced people. We can't be voting for somebody just because. Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you. And I missed the balloons.
I'll go get it.
Our next speaker is John L. Wood.
John Elwood. Speed humps on Central. Why haven't you ordered them? What's the holdup? You don't care about the residents' safety? The ones I've asked for are adjustable. So fire apparatus can go through them with no problem. You can take them up when you wanna pave the street. It's only been about 15 years I've been talking about them. What's the problem? There has to be a problem somewhere. Somebody's either deaf, dumb, or stupid. Or all three. And by the way, La Mesa just got their speed humps installed. Haven't been working on them as long as I have, but you should have them by now. I'd like to know what the problem is, what's the holdup, and why isn't the city doing something about that? Thank you.
Appreciate that. Next, we have Matt Kostrinsky.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Max Strinsky with AFSCME Local 127. I want to first say I appreciate the work that this council did to authorize its first outside wage and comp study for the city. So I appreciate that. We know the study will show a pathway to stopping the exodus of staff here. Because we heard it from our former members as they leave, and what they have said to us, it's about the pay each time they leave. Ever since the last council meeting, when it was brought up, when it was asked, why are people leaving? They've continued to say it's about the pay. Along those lines, I just want to say the city manager keeps telling us there's a wage and comp study coming, there's a timeline, it's moving along, and we should trust them. Though but I want to say that each time we hear a comment or we make an inquiry, there's a new wrinkle, there's a new excuse, and there's a new problem. It's now been 4 months since you authorized the city to move forward for a wage and comp study. We haven't had it yet. We're moving forward. We're waiting, and we're moving forward, and so forth. The latest wrinkle came back on October 8th. We were asked about who AFSCME Local 127, our general unit, and our supervisory unit wanted for appointment. And so we had a conversation internally about that appointments. And it was determined that Nick, who's our executive board member, who's a crew leader in streets, would be it. He's done bargaining, he's a steward. He's on a labor management meeting, he would do one. My members asked that I would do it. My president of our local asked about me doing it. I asked not to do it. But they said, we want someone from AFSCME who's done these things, who has the experience, the professional experience, to be involved in that. So I went back to HR and I said it would be Nick and myself. And HR responded, okay. I said, okay. They said, well, do you want someone else from the supervisory unit? And I said, besides the two of us? They responded back on October 8th, yes. So we said this other person, Dominic, who's with sanitation, he's a supervisor there. He's newer, but to allow him to do it. Well, fast forward to today at around, I think, 11:30, I get a text message, an email from HR, and then a phone call saying that they want to disqualify me from being on there because I'm not an employee of the city. There's nothing legally that disqualifies for you to have a committee talk about wage and comp. My members have asked, my members demand that they get to choose who they want. And I want to represent their feelings about this. And I feel that it's wrong for the city to take it away, that management decides to preclude them, but there's no legal requirement to preclude them for having me on that. And so I'm sadly saying that we do not believe that if we cannot choose who we have on there, we do not believe in the system, and we will not participate in the wage and comp study, and be very clear about that. I ask that this council bring forward a measure tonight that directs city management to make sure that we get to choose who is our representatives, not the city telling us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Manola Clark Manson.
Good evening. I just wanted to bring to your attention something that is in the agenda or in the packet, but doesn't give us any real information.
If you are speaking to a particular agenda item number, then you'll need to save it for that. So you're not speaking to an agenda item?
I'm talking about what's in the packet.
That would relate to an agenda item. If it's in the packet, it's pertaining to an agenda item.
So the list of the work plan, what agenda item is that? for?
There is no work plan on the agenda. Just a copy of it is provided, as a courtesy, but it is not an agenda. It's not on the public agenda.
So then I can speak to it.
Yes, yes.
So, what's in the packet is the work plan, and I wanted to talk about it because it implies that information is being given, but information is not being given. So, it is repeated every packet, but there's no status on anything. So, it looks like we're working in terms of, I'll just choose the first one, public streets, storm drains, and sidewalks. It has two areas, sidewalks and lighting, that we're talking about. Nowhere in there is storm drains, and nowhere is there progress on any of these things. So what it looks like is something is going to happen, but doesn't tell us that something already happened, because I know some things happened, but it also doesn't tell us what's about to happen, so that we can track, so we can know things are happening. Now, things do get said in this meeting, but the public doesn't always hear those things, and doesn't track it related to what's on the plan. So if we could have, instead of just a repeat of the same thing, but a list of what we're doing, how far we've progressed, and how far we need to go would be really helpful. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments, thank you. In, just for clarity's sake, the work plan is not actually part of the packet. It's usually printed on the back side of the agenda for our purposes here. So that way there's clarity on, it's not an agenda item, but thank you for bringing that to our attention, appreciate it. Jasmine Mendoza is our final speaker.
Good evening. Some of you may not know that today, the San Diego County Board of Supervisors met to address the proposed purchase of Troy Street property. Deep gratitude goes to Supervisor Jim Desmond for pulling the agenda item 11 and giving the community a chance to be heard, even if it was only for 60 seconds. There was an overwhelming opposition to the Troy Street project. A special thanks is due to Yadira and Jessica for standing up for Lemon Grove residents, advocating for public safety, fiscal responsibility, and genuine care for the community. Their leadership reflects true public service and should look what it should look like, listening to the people and protecting the integrity of our neighborhood. In stark contrast to our mayor, who continues to be silenced, and her unwillingness to engage the constituents is deeply disappointing. They've reached out to you several times and we haven't had a chance to talk. This avoidance sends a troubling message that the voices of the majority of Lemon Grove taxpayers does not matter. By refusing dialogue, it has created unnecessary divide, framing this issue as an us versus them, when in reality it is about responsible governance, respect for the people they elected to represent. The Troy Street project is not a viable solution as it stands right now. It is a poorly conceived plan that fails to address the real needs of Lemon Grove, disregards overwhelming oppositions from the residents, and the decision that continues to support this, your continued decision to support this project, demonstrates a complete disregard for the majority's will and failure to uphold the duty of representation. Lemon Grove deserves leaders who listen, engage, and act in the best interest of the entire community, and not just a select few. Mendoza, I want to address to you, last meeting that we had, what a shameful comment to say to Lauren, shame on you.
Thank you, that concludes our public comment portion of the agenda. If I can get an update for Mr. Wood from city staff on the status of the speed humps on Central Avenue, that'd be great.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. As far as an update regarding Mr. Wood's request, staff is looking at traffic calming measures, which may or may not include speed humps. As some of you may know, speed humps are highly discouraged in collector streets, much less highly discouraged when there's a grade differential. And so with that, we will be discussing other traffic calming measures for Central Avenue.
Okay, so I'm gonna propose, adding 2 items to the November 4th agenda. The first item is to address the traffic calming measures on Central Avenue. I know I've been here for almost 3 years now, and this has been an item that's continually come up. We've already approved traffic calming measures, and they haven't come to pass. So I'd like to see a proposal on the, November 4th, 2025 agenda, and that proposal include a timeline for when this is gonna happen. And then I would also like, so can I get a second on that?
I will happily second that.
Okay, and then the next item that I would like to put on the agenda is to have, the members of the wage and comp study, be reviewed and, decided upon by the council, and have that be on the November 4th agenda as well. I would also like to include a member or 2 of the city council on that committee as well. Can I get a second on that?
Mayor, there was a point made today in regards to that. There's different committees and there's either 1 or 2 council members, per committee. In order for us to exercise transparency and effective communication, would you consider making an agenda item and discussing the reasons as to why there's resistance so that the public can know what's going on? There's resistance to him being part of the committee or him being part of, Matt being part of advocating for the public works employees, and I would like to get a report on why that is.
So I'll include that with as the part of the agenda item, so that we can better understand what the reasons were, but, ultimately, I think that we should be part of that committee, and I think that, we should be selecting that committee. So if I could get a second with that.
I'll second that.
All right, and then also, well, I think that'll take care of it unless there's any additional issues. Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
I just wanted to say that at one time, we did, with our work plan, we, used to have, I thought that we used to have like a little progress report. And I noticed too, that it wasn't on there this year. So I don't think that necessarily needs to be an agenda item, but that was just a comment to, Manola, who's not here right now. But maybe we could talk that over with the city manager and see if there's something we can do. And then there is, on our website, and this is a question from Mr. Mejia, we do have, street updates. How often are those updated?
Correct, so on our website, we currently have our street rehabilitation project that has been in progress, recently resumed. In addition, we have a list, in essence, it's called a street moratorium, but it lists all the streets that were improved over the past 3 years. And as you know, we do our annual street rehabilitation project every year, and so that list would come before you at various times, one during the contract award, and then secondly, staff presents an agenda item every year to look at streets under 25 PCI, and that agenda item is forthcoming.
Councilmember Altamirano.
I do recall us directing staff to provide quarterly updates on the strategic plan. And if we could get a report on that at the next council meeting, I think we're about the quarter, I think it's time.
Relay that to this.
Yes, I'll relay that to the city manager and get it prepped for next agenda item.
Okay. Do we need to make a motion on that, or is that a given, right? Okay.
I'll just add, I think the direction is enough. We'll relay it to the city manager and have her respond.
Thank you.
All right, next we will move on to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Approval?
A second?
The motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza with a second by Mayor Snow. I'll now commit the roll to go on the record. Councilmember Heredia,
Aye.
Councilmember Altamirano,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza,
Aye.
Mayor Snow.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously.
Next, we have a public hearing. This is item number 2. This is to authorize the fiscal year 2026 through 2027 Community Development Block Grant, also known as the CDBG program application. City clerk, have all the notices required by law been given, and if and has a complete file of the exhibits, correspondence, and other documents been provided?
Mayor Snow and city council members, all notices required by law have been provided, and the complete file of exhibits, correspondence, and other documents are included with the agenda packet.
And I'll turn it over to City Attorney Kristen Steinke to ask council if they have any disclosures or conflict of interest related to this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Because it's a public hearing, we want to make sure that we go through the adequate steps of confirming whether there are any conflicts of interest or ex parte communication. In this case, because it's a community development block grant, it is beneficial to the entire community. You wouldn't be knocked out because of where you live. However, if you have any financial interest in the potential grant, then that would be something to disclose conflict. So I'll just start with Councilmember Altamirano. Any conflicts of interest or ex parte communication?
None.
Thank you. Councilmember Heredia,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza,
I have none.
and Mayor Snow.
No.
Thank you.
All right, next I'll introduce Izzy Murguia, our Public Works Director, to present the staff report. And I just wanted to take a moment. You'll notice that our city attorney, our city manager, Lydia Romero, isn't here with us today. Her father recently passed, and she's attending to that. So our hearts and feelings and prayers go out to her and her family while they're being able to enjoy one another and celebrate his life. And we have Izzy Murguia, who has stepped up to help present this report and help the meeting today. Mr. Murguia.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight's public hearing seeks to receive public comment and seeks to adopt a resolution authorizing the submittal of an application for the fiscal year 26-27 Community Development Block Grant application for the street rehabilitation of Acacia Street. Next slide, please. Little background on the CDBG program. It was created in 1974, administered by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. The purpose of the program is to provide funds annually to all entitlement jurisdictions to develop a viable urban community through community development projects and affordable housing activities that benefit low to moderate income households and persons with special needs. As a non-entitlement jurisdiction, the City of Lemon Grove must partner with the County of San Diego Housing and Community Development Services Department to participate in the CDBG program. For the past 20 years, the city has participated in the CDBG program, and primarily it has focused on utilizing those funds for street rehabilitation projects in eligible neighborhoods. Next slide, please. On September 5th of this year, the county had informed staff that Lemon Grove was eligible to receive $124,352 in CDBG funding for the fiscal year 26-27. To receive this funding, the city must submit a CDBG program application detailing the proposed use of the funds to county staff for consideration and approval, and that application is attached to your agenda items. As part of the application process, the council must adopt a resolution authorizing the submittal of the CDBG program application, hence why we're here this evening. If you can see a little graphic there, that just gives you the overall process of the CDBG program, which really takes about a year from when the application is first considered and approved to when the project gets started or when shovels hit the ground. But in essence, to summarize that graphic, in September of every year, the application becomes available to non-entitlement cities and entitlement cities alike. The cities go through an application process that is administered by the county of San Diego. The county applications due at the end of the month, October 31st. And then from there, between the end of the month and January, the county gathers all the applications that it's received from all the other non-entitlement cities in the county, such as the city of Poway, Del Mar, and then it submits its application to HUD, usually around January. In January, you will receive notification regarding the public comment period for the county, in which any member of the public can comment on the county's overall application process, which would include City of Lemon Grove's street rehabilitation project for Acacia Street. In May, the funding plan is approved by HUD, and the city will receive preliminary notification regarding our funding status. Usually, it's the estimates right in line, or sometimes we get a couple $100 more in the authorization. And then in June and August, funds are released and the county sends a notice to proceed to the city, and then we put together a reimbursement agreement with the county for our highlighted project, which in this case is the recommendation for Acacia Street. So that's the overall CDBG process. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to discuss the selection criteria and the methodology that staff went through to select the recommendation this evening. So staff reviewed the streets located in eligible census tracts, which we'll provide a map here shortly. Staff compared the eligible street segments against the current pavement management program. And we're primarily focusing on streets that are under the 25 PCI mark, so that's your very, very poor condition streets, with a pavement condition index between 10 and 25. This preliminary criteria resulted in 24 street segments to be evaluated as potential projects or candidate streets. We then examined the 24 street segments and based those segments on additional criteria to finalize our recommendation this evening. And that criteria has been established by the council year over year, and primarily that consists of the budget. So the CDBG program, again, is authorizing $124,000. Over the past several years, as projects become more expensive, we're seeing that the CDBG program has to be subsidized by Transnet or SB1, but we truly want to look at streets that can be just sustained by CDBG. And so we're looking at streets that are about 25,000 square foot in total, and that usually amounts to be anywhere from $100,000 to $110,000 to do a mill and overlay to stay within the CDBG budget. So we look at budget, we look at connectivity, so fixing whole blocks, we don't want to be addressing mid-blocks or half a street, so we want to make sure that we're repairing an entire block. In addition to that, we are looking at, most recently, have there been streets that have been repaired more recently where rehabilitating this street would essentially provide a better benefit to a particular neighborhood. We look at maximizing the number of residences, so we look at households on a particular street, square footage, as I mentioned, and then proximity to parks, schools, and other governmental facilities. And then lastly, access to commercial corridors. So, you know, we look at streets in the business corridor, so access to Broadway, Lemon Grove Ave, Skyline, Camp Street, are collectors. So based off of the 24 street segments that we looked at, we whittled down the alternative streets to 8 potential streets, including Acacia Street, and those alternative streets are included in your agenda packet as viable streets should the council you know, decide to look at undertaking a project other than Acacia Street. Next slide, please. So this is the census tract map that I have referred to earlier. So the areas highlighted in yellow are the eligible areas and streets that would be considered. As part of your agenda items tonight, we also provided an additional material. It's a map from our PMP, our Pavement Management Program, that highlights streets under 25 PCI. Those are indicated in red. And so we're really looking at the northeast, northwest, and southwest quadrant of the city that really leaves out the southeast quadrant of the city. So that also kind of windowed the options. In addition to, over the past year, we've addressed a lot of streets under 25 PCI as part of our current pavement project and past 25 PCI, past CDBG projects. And so, you know, really the list is getting narrower and narrower each year. So based on the criteria set forth, staff recommends Acacia Street as the street rehabilitation project for the fiscal year 26-27 application. The scope of work in essence consists of a mill and overlay, so grinding the street down 2 inches and laying on asphalt over it. Doing dig outs where needed, where there's sections of pavement that are compromised and needs rebuilding, as well as constructing or installing 2 compliant ADA ramps at the corners of Acacia Street and Golden Avenue. And for those in the audience, Acacia Street is a dead end or a cul-de-sac street, and it is south of Golden Avenue. Next slide. And here's an overview of the proposed street, Acacia Street. In total, it is about 21,000 square feet. Project estimate's about 116,000, and it has a PCI of 16. Acacia Street has come up as part of the eligible streets for consideration in past CDBG programs, as well as our agenda item for streets under 25 PCI to be considered, and it has never made the full cut. Additionally, we just completed a storm drain project in the neighborhood, and so now that storm drain project is complete, we also felt that it would be a good candidate to get that street repaved. Next slide. These are just some street views of Acacia Street at Golden Avenue, and then at the end of the cul-de-sac looking north. Next slide. This slide here illustrates the additional alternative street segments that I referred to earlier. And as part of staff's evaluation, we recommend, you know, any of these streets would be good contenders. They obviously have their pros and cons, like Acacia Street. But additional streets for consideration are Lester Avenue from Grove Street to Lemon Grove Ave, North Avenue from Harris to Buena Vista, Weed Road from San Miguel to Fisher Lane, and Harris Street from North Avenue to Broadway, West Street, North Avenue, Broadway, and Lemon Ave from Olive to Buena Vista. And again, these are viable candidates on it. This is included as attachment D in your agenda packet, but we have the various criteria that you see in the columns from right to left. Again, looking at proximity to commercial corridors, number of residences impacted, that's again based on estimates, looking at parcel maps, and square footage, and again, we're looking at the overall budget, estimated cost for the project and staying under the CDBG allocation. Next slide. In addition to the streets for consideration, there are other alternatives that the council may consider. One being, last year we had provided a consideration option that the council can dedicate funds to sidewalks and ADA ramp improvements. That would be an eligible expense. In the public improvement sphere, it also would obviously fall under the council's work plan. And so that is an alternative for the council to consider. And then, lastly, I'll mention that, there are some policies going on at the federal level where the city is unsure whether or not we may receive the funding at all, because there is, and Kristen can speak to this, but there's some litigation going on right now between HUD and the city of Fresno regarding DEI practices and language in contract documents. And so the County of San Diego has signed on to that case, and so we don't know if there will be political ramifications for that. But we're keeping a close eye on that as well. So, and Kristen, I'll defer to you if you have any questions or additional comments to that.
Yeah, I can add to that matter, which is this City of Fresno versus HUD. Federal funding was withheld from projects involving federal funding in the City of Fresno. Fresno sued HUD to allow for that funding. The court and the County of San Diego signed on as I suppose a co-litigant in that case, defending DEI initiatives. And the court issued an injunction, which in this case meant that federal funding shall not be withheld based on DEI initiatives. And so the county has opened up the CDBG process. Funding should flow based on that injunction. However, whatever happens in that case may change the flow of funding. So we want to make sure to get our application in so that we're in line when those funds do become available.
Thank you, Kristen. And with that, staff's recommendation is to hold a public hearing and take public comment, adopt a resolution authorizing the submittal of an application for the fiscal year 26-27 Community Development Block Program. And staff's available for any questions after your public comment. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. We are now opening the public hearing. City Clerk, do we have any speaker slips for this item?
Mayor Snow, I have no speaker slips for this item.
So we will now close the public comment period, and we will now turn to questions and deliberation by city council members on this portion of it before we close the public comment. First round of questions, Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
I don't know that I really have any questions. I just want to make some comments. It's been my experience over the years that we generally do use the CDBG money for rehabilitating streets. And one reason for that is that we didn't always have a lot of money in the past to spend on our streets. So the council has always felt that this is a necessity for the city to spend this money for our streets. And even though we've been able to fix more streets in the last the last few years than we have in the last 20 years. I personally still think that, you know, it's just one street, but these folks have been living on this street for many, many years, and I've been down this street, it's pretty bad. PCI of 16. The other thing is, the street is the right size, it fits in, pretty closely within the budget. It's behind, Golden Avenue, or, well, it's not, I'm sorry, it's the Lemon Grove Academy. And I know at least when my granddaughter was going to that school, a lot of the kids who live in that neighborhood, it's a very dense neighborhood, as you can see from the picture. A lot of those kids do walk to school, and quite a few parents tend to park on the street when they're picking their kids up at the end of the day. So even though it is a cul-de-sac, it is a pretty heavily used street. So for those, you know, the other streets you listed, those are all great ideas too, but because of its proximity to the school. Oh, and also, Golden Avenue was a CBDG project, not too long ago. So I like the idea that we're, connecting, you know, you're not on a repaired street and then drive off into this, horrible road. So for those reasons, I support that we fix Acacia Street.
Councilmember Heredia?
Sorry, I learned. Thank you so much, Mr. McGarry, for this presentation and adding the other streets that were in consideration. I have no problem with Acacia. I did go and check out the storm drain restoration project, and I thought that was a great use of funds, especially in that area, considering what was happening in that, plus with the school. So I like completing that project a little bit more and kind of sealing that up. What I would like to say, I don't have any questions, by the way, is that I think for next time, if we might consider the North Avenue, Harris Street to Buena Vista, only because it's a very driven area, but for not only commuters that live here in the area, but for the heavy trucks that go through there for Food for Less and Home Depot, and it's pretty heavily traveled by many things, and it's starting to really get so bad that I fear an accident because it's hard to get around cars as it is, and then there's potholes everywhere. So I'd like to see that one get some attention soon, I know that, and the West Street north to Broadway was something that was also considered before, and you know, I'm just revisiting any of these. I mean, like you said, Ms. Mendoza, that these are all great streets, so thank you.
Councilmember Altamirano?
No questions, just, saying we both visited the street, and I really like the fact that it is getting worked on after the storm drain has been repaired, because we've had, you know, a lot of problems with, utility companies coming in after, or we're doing storm drain work after a street has been repaid, so I think the order is right, the street is right, and I would support it.
One of the options that were available was the possibility of doing sidewalks instead of using it to fix streets. Have we done any evaluation in the staff report? That was one of the options. Have we done any analysis on where we would add a sidewalk?
Mayor, that's a forthcoming agenda item. We'll be providing a report to council on suggested sidewalk improvements throughout the city for consideration. And so, to be continued.
Okay. So, one of the items, going back to, on the work plan, that we have set out is adding at least one new sidewalk. So in the Measure T funds that we approved previously, we approved about $750,000 worth of improvements and upgrades to the current existing sidewalks. But it did not include any money for additional sidewalks. And so the city has a dearth of sidewalks, and I'd like to take at least some steps to being able to get sidewalks into our community, because we have invested well over $4 million this year into fixing our roads. I would kind of like to see this put towards sidewalks and help us meet that work plan goal of being able to add at least one more sidewalk to the community. If not, my priority was a little bit different. So Acacia Street is a dead-end street, most commonly traveled by the people who reside on that street. It's not a place of traffic, and there's no access to the school. Even though it's adjacent to the school, there's no actual access to the school. My priority would be to the roads that are more heavily traveled and the roads that are in worse condition. So my number one pick was the Harris from, or the North Avenue one between, I think it was Harris and Buena Vista? Harris and Buena Vista. Yeah, it's been a point of a lot of, most recently in news, because we were able to clean up the encampment there. And once the encampment was gone, you could see how really bad that street was. And a lot of people travel that road. It's a different route to get between versus Broadway. A lot of people travel north instead of Broadway. My GPS map takes me down to north to circumvent the traffic and the lights over there. So I think that area is more heavily traveled, and it has a worse pavement management index number. So that's why I would like to see that one move forward if we don't do a new sidewalk.
Mayor Snow, if I can
Yes.
interject. So the Harris Street to north of Broadway, agree with your comments and Councilmember Heredia's comments. We're looking to address that segment sooner rather than later. So with the phase one of the RTFH funding complete and the removal of the unhoused individuals there, where staff is looking at a longer term option for that corridor. And so we'll be beginning the process of working on a design for those permanent improvements, which would include street repaving. And we believe that we could get that done quicker, sooner than the CDBG application process.
That's good news. That's exciting. So with that, I would my priorities then would be either getting a new sidewalk, just because we haven't seen a new sidewalk in, at least in the 3 years I've been here. Or that would improve the Acacia. Is anybody else on here interested? And I know that there's consensus already for Acacia, but maybe you weren't thinking about sidewalks, and it might be something you're willing to consider.
And it was downtown.
Councilmember Altamirano, yeah. Can you, Mr. Murguia, what would that entail?
Eminent domain, are these on streets that we already own, that we already have the right to build sidewalks on?
So yeah, to answer your question, staff would first look at eligible streets that appear to have the sufficient right-of-way. We won't know until it gets surveyed, and that would let us know for sure whether or not we have the sufficient right-of-way to build, anywhere from a 5-foot to 8-foot sidewalk. So that would consist of surveying and then the design, but that would come afterwards. And for this application process, we don't have a list of candidates. Again, as I mentioned, it's a forthcoming agenda item, so I don't have a list of candidates to propose to you at this time. But if you gave us some flexibility regarding sidewalks in general and allow staff to pick the street or the sidewalk location, that would be best to submit the application in a timely manner.
To follow up on that, the what's coming in the future, does that propose new sidewalks. My understanding was that it was to repair existing sidewalks, not to add new sidewalks. Is that correct?
Yeah, for clarification, the agenda item that would be coming before you is for new sidewalks. We split up our city into 4 zones, and the recommendation would be to do 1 to 2 sidewalks in each of those zones.
I am so excited for Lemon Grove. This is really exciting news. So with that, I think, I'm all in on Acacia, and I think we've got pretty good consensus. What I'll do is ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Can I get a motion for that?
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second?
We'll second that.
A motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza with a second by Councilmember Altamirano. I'll now conduct the roll to go on the record. Councilmember Heredia.
Aye.
Councilmember Altamirano.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
Aye.
Mayor Snow.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously.
I'll move, that we adopt a resolution authorizing the submittal of an application for the fiscal year 2026-27 Community Development Block Grant Program.
Councilmember Heredia, did you want a second?
I will second.
Thank you.
The motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza with a second by Councilmember Heredia to approve staff's recommendation. I'll now conduct the roll to go on the record. Councilmember Altamirano.
Aye.
Councilmember Heredia.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
Aye.
Mayor Snow.
Aye.
The motion carries on a vote of 4-0.
Alright, next, we will move to, reports to council. This is item number 3, the city council vacancy process. I'll call on City Attorney Kristen Steinke to present the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. As we are well aware, there is a vacancy on the council due to the untimely and tragic passing of Councilmember Fayai. On September 16th, the council attempted to fill that seat through an appointment process with interviews. The council was deadlocked in a 2-2 tie. On October 7th, the City Council got together again to discuss the process by which to fill that seat. The council voted at that meeting in order to fill the seat through an again attempting the appointment process. At the time of that October 7th meeting, the council voted to move forward with an appointment process that would include past applicants, allowing those past applicants to use the applications that they had already submitted, if that was what they chose to do, if they choose to move forward, as well as open up the process to potential new candidates who had not applied in the past. In addition, the council voted 3-1 in order to use the ranked choice voting style of appointment. At the time, you interview the candidates and then decide upon who you'd like to appoint. So with that in mind, staff put together the staff report and the suggestion for a timeline for the vacancies. Next slide, please. And up on the screen, as well as in your packet, there is a suggested timeline for that appointment process. There was also some discussion at the time of the last city council meeting regarding how to get to know these candidates a little bit more, beyond just their applications. There was a discussion about having a potential town hall or maybe a candidate forum, so we'd like to flesh that out a little bit. The proposed timeline, as you will see, is it has the application period beginning tomorrow, essentially, and running through October 30th. Applications received until 5 p.m. on October 30th. And then we're proposing an informational forum. We've done that in the past where staff will meet with potential candidates who are interested in applying and provide them information on the requirements of being a council member, time requirements, Form 700 requirements, conflicts of interest, just so that everybody is clear on what their duties are, with respect to filling the vacant seat. And then also, like I said, potential candidate forum or town hall where you would open up to the public the opportunity to ask questions or propose questions that they would like to be asked of candidates. That's something I think you all could discuss a little bit further, what you envision that, and the date for that as well. I think a potential date for that would be around November 5th. I think that would probably fit into the schedule that we proposed nicely. And then applications are distributed along with the agenda packet when it's posted on the Thursday before the proposed meeting where we would have interviews. The proposed meeting for interviews is Tuesday, November 18th. That is the second meeting in November. And then interviews take place on that Tuesday, November 18th. Hopefully, a potential appointee is selected, and then the oath can be administered at the first meeting in December. So that is our proposed timeline, and I would turn it over to the council to provide any feedback for us. If you agree with the timeline, just direction would be sufficient and we can move forward. If you would like any adjustments, please let us know and we will do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we will turn to the public comment portion of this period. City Clerk, are there any speaker slips?
Mayor Snow, I have no speaker slips for this item.
Okay, we will now close the public comment portion of it and move to questions and deliberation. We'll start with Councilmember Altamirano.
This is for the city attorney, so, the third line says the council applicant information forum would be on Wednesday, the November 5th. Is that the same as the candidate forum?
Yeah, I saw that. I think that's an error. The informational forum should take place before the applications are due, so that the candidates can determine whether they want to submit their applications. So I think, in looking at the calendar, a better date for an applicant forum would be within the next week. So we would wanna have that before, before the 30th. So I would say maybe like the 27th or the 28th, depending on the city manager's availability. I think that would give candidates enough time to meet with staff. Typically we meet here, it's fairly informal, but we do a little presentation saying what your, what conflicts of interest are, what's a Form 700, what are your requirements, reporting requirements, time commitments, things like that, so that candidates can be well informed about what their duties and responsibilities are. So I would propose for that date to be between the 27th and the 29th, before applications are actually due.
Any other questions?
That's next week. When would we know? Because people, I'm all for giving people plenty notice so that they can organize their calendars. Most people work or have things going on, so I know with Lydia being out this week,
Yeah.
it just feels kinda tight.
We can also extend the application period if you would like to. That would certainly free up more time. And you could extend the application period, say, for another week. I still would need to check with the city manager's availability regarding the candidate forum, but that would give us more time to distribute that information, disseminate it, make sure everybody was aware when the candidate forum took place, and give them more time to plan. If that sounds more reasonable.
I would agree with that.
Okay. So then we would do, the application period would run through the 6th. And I say November 6th because the city is closed every Friday. So we would go with applications due November 6th, and then a candidate.
I would propose pushing out, like, the applications become available October 22nd with a deadline of November 13th, 2025. And that way we have time to fit in the informational forum and a candidate forum.
Okay? So the proposal is applications between October 22nd to November 13th. And then I would suggest an informational forum, which is just, staff presenting information to potential candidates.
We could keep that on the 5th.
On November 5th. That would work for November 5th?
Yeah.
Okay.
People 2 weeks.
Okay. Okay, and then that would mean that we would have our interviews potentially on the November 18th meeting. Is that too tight?
Yeah, so I would say, the candidate forum would be on, November 19th.
And this is the opportunity for the public to ask questions, we can flesh that out a little bit.
Right.
Okay, November 19th is the suggestion.
Yeah. And then the applications, be distributed, so the deadline would be the 13th, so the applications be distributed, no later than, that following Monday. I don't have that Monday after Thursday, November 13th.
That would be Monday the 17th.
And then, interviews and appointments on 12/2/2025, and then anybody who would take the seat at the, second Tuesday, or the second meeting in December, which would be the third Tuesday. 16th. The 16th.
Okay, so to reiterate,
Alright, to reiterate, the application period will open on October 22nd, 2025, and, will close on November 13th, 2025 at 5 p.m. That's the deadline. And then I have the, council applicant informational forum as Wednesday, November 5, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. With the candidate forum, that one is slated for November 19, 2025. And then with the applications, those applications will be distributed on November 17th. And then, council interviews will be held on December 2nd. And then the administration of the oath of office will, be on the second meeting in December. And that is, December 16th.
that's what I had as well.
Does that work for everybody? Any comments on that part of it? Okay. Next, I'll turn to Councilmember Heredia.
So for the forum, I like the idea of having new questions. I know we all kind of discussed that the questions were sort of repetitive anyway, and this might be a good opportunity to find new questions, just as a whole. Also, do the last round of candidates really need to re-interview, or can we take that interview we've already gone through and move forward to the next people, or do they need to re-interview for a reason?
Just my 2 cents, because we're getting new questions.
Oh, true, okay, yeah,
And,
that makes sense.
and, yeah.
That's it, that's all I have for questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza?
I didn't see this as a step, sorry. I have not searched for it. We need to contact, will someone contact, the former applicants to make sure that they wanna keep them in, that should be included seen done before is, you have, people submit their questions on a piece of paper or on a 3x5 card. And then you don't have the same people coming up and asking, the same questions. You can kind of put them questions together, you know what I mean? Like, cause some people might have the same ideas. And then it kind of, instead of having the members of the public like come up and kind of grill the candidates, that might be intimidating, or maybe not. The clerk or even maybe the mayor could read the questions. You could like have all the questions. I've seen this done before. You have the questions submitted at the beginning of the meeting, and then you kind of go through them and put the very similar ones together, ensuring that everyone gets their question asked.
That was gonna be something that I would wanna point out, is that it may take time to go through, depending on how many people are participating. It may take staff some time to go through those handwritten cards. So logistically, I mean, it's up to you all what you'd like to do, but logistically, it may cause a delay while we tabulate what the questions are and, you know, determine which ones are duplicative.
So, what we can, one idea is that while, we get the questions at the beginning of the meeting, and we'll set a cutoff for the questions to be received, and then the people who are gonna work on that, city attorney, city manager, whoever else needs to be in the room on that, and then instead of having the people go into the separate room for their opening statements, that they come and sit in front of everyone, and each person can say their 3-minute statements, and then we can get the 3-minute statements out of the way. And if we have 10 candidates, that's gonna buy you 30 minutes to be able to do that tabulation, so we don't have a gap in time and to keep things moving along.
Well, we have, there's two different, items here. So we have the candidate forum, which is a separate event, right, on November 19th, where you have the candidates show up, and this should be an opportunity for the public to ask questions. You want them to have an opening statement at that, as well as the interviews. Because I have the candidate forum, and then I have the city council interviews on, December 2. So they'll do, the way we've done the interviews in the past is to have the opening statement, like you said. Would you like to have them have an opening statement at the candidate forum as well?
And yes, I think that would like the input from the other members.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Councilmember Hurdy?
I think it might be wiser to have people submit these questions well in advance, and then we have time as a council body to kind of mull over those questions, decide what's repetitive, and then kind of reword them so that they articulate better for the community to get the same answer that they're looking for, but maybe we would have some insight as to how the verbiage should be. We have a little time here now, so we might be able to do that. I don't know.
I think that's a good idea, and it gives those questions that the public has asked will go through city staff, they'll put them together, and then if possible, I would like the candidates to have those questions so that they can prepare accordingly and they're not caught off guard. I think that will save time, they'll come prepared, it'll be more organized, and the public, both the public and staff will just feel better about the whole thing.
Yeah, I can get behind that. So maybe we have, questions submitted by the same November 13th deadline. And we maybe post it on Facebook, or, I don't know how you collect the questions, but.
We would, I suggest, they become public records. And so they are available for public inspection, regardless of how you decide to choose them or pick them. So we can tabulate them so that they're in a summary, and then distribute them to the council and, the public at the same time. Now, sorting through them is something I would have to think through, but you could certainly tabulate them into a summary and word for word, and then determine if you'd like to take from those questions that the public has presented to you and reword them, so that they meet your needs, and then ask the questions of the candidates. If you'd like to do that, because you can certainly.
Ask the same questions?
You could, well, I guess I'm just thinking out loud a little bit, right? Because you're gonna get an onslaught of questions. And staff can certainly take all of those questions word for word and put them into a summary document for the public to review and for the city council to review. And then if you'd like to ask those questions word for word, you certainly can. Otherwise, you can glean from those questions what's important to the public and then put them into your own words and ask the candidates those questions. That's just a suggestion. Like I said, I'm thinking out loud.
I'm thinking maybe 3 or 4 questions to ask the same candidates, and the order that each candidate will be asked will be just random names picked out of a hat.
Yeah.
To make it fair, but I don't wanna overwhelm the candidates with a ton of questions,
Yeah.
3 to 5 questions
Yeah.
max, same questions from the public, whatever the public wants to ask.
I might even say, one of the advantages of this is we can get more input, cause, we're gonna still do our interviews. So, what I would even say, let's open it up. I like pulling, we'll have like 10 questions, and, we can pull it out of the hat. I like that part of it. And maybe have 3 candidates at a time answer each question, so we get more of kind of a idea. And then, for this one, I wouldn't mind having people all be in the same room listening to each other's answers either. I think that would help us compare and contrast if they're able to speak to one thing or another. Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza?
So I would envision the city council not really being involved in this. So the candidates would be sitting in front at a table, and city council members would be part of the audience. Because it's a town hall meeting, it's not a city council meeting. We don't need, to call the meeting to order. It's just a public town hall meeting. And, so that was my vision of what a town hall meeting, would be. And then they would all the candidates would hear each other's answers, and the public. Then it's the public's meeting, the community's meeting, not the city council, because we're gonna interview people, later.
My only thought, oh, go ahead.
Councilmember Herdia?
So on that thought, then what's the point, I guess, cause it's not like the community's gonna get a say. How does that factor into the?
So the reason why I wanted to do the town hall is so we could hear the community's opinion and get the community's questions asked. I take it very much into account where the community is on these things. So I think maybe after they have the opportunity to listen to the different candidates, maybe if we had a public comment portion where they could say which candidate they're supporting, or they, after having listened to it at the meeting where we have the interviews, they come back and say, this is the candidate, we listened and we participated in the town hall, and this is why we're supporting this candidate. But I very much take into account, and I know you do too, what people are, who people are advocating for and why they're advocating for them. So I think that this gives a better informed option.
That makes sense.
Anything further, Councilmember Alvarado?
I'm not sure how I feel about them being in the same room and answering the same questions. Would we consider just taking in public's questions and making that part of our questions and doing away with the forum, and that is the way that the public is informed by them asking the questions they wanna hear an answer to. I think that'll save money and, I mean, not money, time and confusion, and we just stick to the same order that we did the interview, before. It just, to me, it's like, unfair for the people that are gonna answer the questions first, because everyone can have their answers.
For me, I understand your concern. I think this one is more informal than the interview that we would conduct. I kind of wanna see how people work together and build off each other's answers. A lot of times, just like we've done in this meeting, somebody will have a good idea, and maybe we'll adopt it or make it better. And I think that shows how people collaborate and listen, and I'm interested, and I think the community would be interested in seeing how they interact and build off one another. This isn't the last opportunity to have the interviews, and when we do our formal interviews, we can do it as we've done in the past where they can't hear each other's responses. But this is almost more informational. We had a couple of candidates the last few times that really didn't have a lot of experience, and being able to hear other people's ideas might help them be a better candidate, and I'm all for people becoming better candidates and getting people to improve and build. But I understand where you're coming from on that, and we don't wanna give people an unfair advantage, but this isn't the actual interview part. And we're not asking the same question, well, this is what I propose, is that we ask like 3 questions, or the same question to 3 candidates, move on to a different question, ask 3 more candidates as we pull them out of the hat, and ask the next question, ask 3 more candidates, just so we get more people thinking about the issues and concerns that the community has. And then when they come to the interview, they'll get the same question from us, and they'll have that sameness and that, fairness quotient. But I don't think anybody wants, it's not a game where like you tip your hand, or like poker where you don't wanna show other people your cards. I think being fair and, even sometimes saying, I ditto of what that person said is perfectly acceptable. Does that help, or are you still?
Yeah, I'm
concerned?
still just wondering, about the number of applicants that we'll get, and how complicated we're making the process. To me, it just sounds like it's a lot. We may only get 5 applicants, 6 applicants, and then what are we gonna do, ask them the same questions? I think we're overthinking it, that's my opinion. We could come up with a simplified way. We may get 15, but I highly doubt it, based on our previous discussions. I'm not quite sure that a lot of people are willing to put themselves out there. Just trying to keep it real.
And I think as we're discussing it, we're just kind of ironing out the wrinkles. I don't think at this point it's complicated. It's a town hall meeting, and the town will be able to ask their questions. And then we'll have a secondary process where we ask the interviews. I think this is an important quotient that was requested by some people in our community, to have that portion and be able to have them have that say. And also an opportunity to get asked a more broad variety of questions. And so I think what you're proposing is that we get away with the town hall portion of it. If I'm misunderstanding that, please correct me.
For the record and for clarity, I believe Matt Kukinski was the only one that requested that forum.
Are you saying you don't want a town hall?
I'm just saying, the community, it wasn't, I remember, and I may be wrong, that it was only Matt.
I was just asking, do you
Yeah, I
want to do
don't
away with the
care.
town hall?
I would be okay not having a forum.
Okay, I would prefer to have a forum. I think we don't have enough community input. I felt frustrated in the last process by just being able to ask 4 questions of the candidates. I felt like it didn't flesh out who they were as a person. And so I felt kind of frustrated with the process myself. So if we're not gonna do that, I don't know what else we're gonna do, but I was frustrated. Councilmember Herdia?
I'm sorry. I would love to compromise on this. I feel like it'd be great if we could get the questions from the community, skip the town hall, use those questions in the interview, because time is of the essence, and I feel like we're laying this by a lot now. I know it's great to have the time, but we're also not getting the work done because we're focusing on this a lot. And I know we need to get this done to get really to some stuff, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff we could do regardless of how many people are up here. I think we agree for the most part on a lot of the things. But I really wanna get to the point where we're done with this part of the deal, and so maybe getting rid of the town hall is the solution to expediting this to quicker. And still including the community by allowing them to submit the questions. And then maybe we draw those questions out of a hat. There's like no strategy and you having the question as a council member to say, you know, this is the question I want. It's just, oh, I drew this one. I mean, I don't think it's more fair. That's my thought.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza, do you have any other comments?
Well, if we did do a compromise like that and not have a town hall and interviews, I still think that the community questions should be, maybe separate from, because I agree also, I get frustrated just asking one question. And I mean, just to be really transparent to everyone who's here, there's like a list of 12 questions that we get, and, some of them are repetitive, or they're not exactly the same, but they kind of sounds the same. And so we have an opportunity to pick which question is important to us for whatever reason, to ask the candidates. And then we ask each candidate the same question. And so it is a little frustrating. I feel frustrated because I don't feel like I'm getting all the information from the person that I would like to get. So, in addition to whatever question or questions we ask the candidates, I do think I would like to elicit some of those questions from the public. And get more participation from the public. What is important to our, and that's one thing that a town hall, I was looking it up on my phone, what a town hall is meant to do is it's meant to, elicit more community involvement. So allowing people to send questions in, maybe they can't come to the interview, I think is a good idea. So I'm like a little torn. Do we put our candidates through, also we're asking people to go through two forums, town hall forum, and then the interviews, by us. And it's gonna be a very long meeting. If we do not have a town hall, it's gonna be a long meeting. So that we can ask the candidates as many questions as we can. So I would compromise for that, if we're willing to be here for a long time, to ask more questions, more than one question. So that's just, if that's clear at all.
Yeah, so, just so I understand, we wanna get, we wouldn't do the town hall, but we would still solicit, for questions from the community. We would enable ourselves to ask more than one question a piece. And and those questions that we do ask will come from members of the community Does that sound like we've got a plan? Councilmember Alvarado?
My understanding is that we would come up with our own questions, and then we would probably pull questions out of a hat from the committee that have been emailed already. I believe that's what she was trying to communicate, and I would be okay with that. Understanding at the same time that there would be 3 different meetings that the potential candidates would have to attend. Information meeting, the forum, and the interview.
So my understanding is like, I think at the last couple of informational meetings, like 1 or 2 people, candidates have shown up. Not all the candidates come to that meeting. I would also propose that the meeting be available on Zoom, to make it easier for people to attend the candidate forum and then be able to review the material online. And that we just post the Zoom to the website so people could see what information was provided, so that's more easily accessible. And then, do just what we said, so we'll have our own questions, we'll have the community's questions, and we will just draw the community's questions from, well, we still have the issue of overlap. Some of the community members may still be asking it, so we'll have those vetted, so take out duplicates beforehand, and then we'll have a basket of questions that are not duplicative from the community that will be selected as well.
But you would solicit the questions to be submitted in advance?
In advance, by November 13th.
By November 13th.
Deadline.
And then staff could pull those together in a summary and, kind of indicate which ones were duplicative in the bunch.
Yeah.
I would suggest, although it's hard to enforce, is that, 1 question per person. But if there are interesting questions from 1 person, I suppose that's something to consider as well. So that we don't get 10 questions from each community member, that makes it very challenging to review. So I would request that, as an accommodation to staff. And then, one thing for my own clarification is, okay, we've pulled together all the comments, all the questions from the public. Say, for purposes of this example, we have 10. We pulled together 10 with the same theme. And then, will each candidate be asked the exact same questions like you've done in the past, and we keep the candidates separated in the closed session room, while each person is interviewed separately?
I wanna hear people's thoughts on this. Councilmember Heredia?
Okay, so I'm thinking we need new questions, first of all. We know that. Maybe we can each come up with 3 questions on our own that we come prepared for, and we can, or whatever determined number, and we can select from those 3 questions. We could even send them in advance, and we can all pick maybe 10 questions out of those submitted, right? Or 8 questions where we still pick 1. And then I think we do 1 from the community, and I like the randomness of picking 1 from that. Just because it's very fair to the community that way, that it's not, there's no favoritism in the question that's being asked, or no alluding to.
Councilmember Alvarado?
I would be okay with that, submitting questions and having the option to ask 1 or 2 questions, for time's sake, to have 1 question per candidate. I think that's fair.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza?
So, I think we're gonna get more than 4 questions from community members. So by picking the questions out of the hat and not pre-selecting them, or any, input from the community, I think that's a good idea, because, I don't wanna pick something that maybe I have some bias, towards. This way, it's completely non-biased, it's completely fair. But, I think, we have, 12 good questions from the communities. I think we should want to do this. But I don't think it's fair to just pick 4 and then say, oh, well, thank you all for sending in your questions, but we're not gonna ask any more of the questions. I think whatever we get, it depends what we get, whatever we get, I think that's what we need to ask people. I'm looking at it kind of like, it's a candidate forum. Like if you're running for office and you get all of the, I remember one time there were 10 people running for San Diego City Council, District 9. And they had a forum for these 10 people. It took a little while, but I feel like the community got to ask some really important questions of these people. And I too agree, we don't wanna, make anyone uncomfortable, so we should let our candidates know, at least a day ahead of time, these are some of the questions that we're gonna be asking them. But yeah, I don't think we should limit the questions that the community sends in.
Another part of what, our city attorney was asking is, do we want to ask the same question of all the candidates?
Each candidate gets the same questions, same opportunity. That's what yes, thank you. So that we don't have one random question for one candidate, one random question for another candidate, they're not answering the same questions, so everybody gets the same questions. Because you will be coming up with your own questions to ask, or that's what I'm hearing, is that you want to come up with your own questions to ask, what's important to you, and the community will be providing their input on what questions they want asked. Would you like staff to read the community's questions? Yes, please. Yeah, okay.
So then if we could we do it where we get the community's questions and all of them, not just pick out of a hat. But then we could when they come for the interview, we have our own set of questions as council that we can ask. We can pick one from there and one from the community. So it's not determined which one you're picking. It's not a surprise, but like we just do normally right before the meeting. I'm like, I want number 2 and number 3 from this list. And it's one of each side, because time is of the essence, so it's like one that's important to us, and then we see one that's from the community that we think resonates, We're all gonna feel differently on what resonates, I think, anyway. And so maybe that's a potential, because we're gonna have to eliminate and commit to something. I mean, that makes sense. We can't just hope that we get enough questions to draw from a hat.
That may mean that not all community questions are asked, though, if you're
Right.
choosing, yeah,
Right.
okay.
And we'd even do 2 of each. It doesn't have to be 1 of each, but we should limit them to some extent. We can't be like, oh, I'm gonna do 10 and he's gonna do 5 and.
Councilmember Alvarado?
I think it's fair for the candidates to know the questions ahead of time. And we're doing this so that the community participates in the process. So 2 questions would be fair. And it probably would limit the time that they have to answer. So last time there was some candidates that went on for a long time to answer the questions. So it's like you have 1 minute, 2 minutes. And so if we each ask a question, they'd have 2 minutes, say, to answer the question, so that's 8 minutes, and then another 2 more questions from the public, that would be 12 minutes to answer questions, 3 minutes for their opening statement, and 2 minutes for their closing statement, so in essence, 20 minutes per candidate. I honestly don't anticipate a lot of candidates applying, but hopefully we do. Hopefully we do, I'm hopeful.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is council will choose 1 question each that they, want, that's important to them, and you craft your own question. And then the community's questions will be gathered and tabulated by staff, and each of you will choose 2 of those questions to ask each candidate. Every candidate will get the same questions, although we'll be pulling from the community's questions as well. Does that, I can read them based on, you can tell me which ones, and, staff can read them and ask the questions if you'd like.
Yes.
Did you say each of us would pick 2 questions from the public, or it's just total 2 per candidate?
Well, that's up to you, but what I heard was one question that's crafted by the council each. And then, what I heard was 2 questions that you each pick from the community, and then staff reads those questions to the candidates, so that's 2, 4, 6, 8. That's a lot of questions.
So I'm just thinking 2 questions total.
Oh, 2 questions total.
Those were my comments.
You'd have to agree on those 2 questions from the community.
But they would be different questions per candidate.
Each pick our own, just like we normally do.
Yeah,
Just like we would normally pick, I pick number 4, she picked number 10. There's 12 of them to pick from, so 4 different questions would likely come out.
4 each, so you'd have
Or
4
would-
council crafted questions, and then you'd have 4 community questions. Does that sound right? Am I getting this?
Yeah, we each have an individual community question, just one, we could each pick one
Right,
that we use as our community question,
yeah,
and then we would have our own question.
okay.
There's 2 questions total.
So, I understand. Okay, I understand, but now the decision is on you all to agree.
So I'd be open to 3 and limiting it to 1 minute per response. So that would give us 12 minutes of question and answer, and then a 2-minute opening statement and 1 minute closing. That put us at 15 minutes per candidate. I think that moves it along at a clip. Does that sound okay? That way we get more of the community's questions out there.
So you want 1 additional question from the community, is that what you're saying? So each of you choose 2 community questions, 1 of your own questions, you limit the time period so that you're still moving along quickly. Okay. Understood. Does everybody agrees?
Yes.
Anything to add? Okay, then, one more thing is that those questions from the community would be due on November 13th. So we will push out that information, the timeline and the information to the public as well as you all, and you can disseminate it, and we'll make sure that any questions that are asked of us are responded to quickly, and make the information available to the public.
And then we're taking the form out.
And taking the form out, yes, yeah. So there will only be 1 public meeting regarding the interviews where we collect community questions and ask it all at the same time.
And then at the end, are there any issues with the proposed ranked choice voting that was in the staff report? And Councilmember Alvarado?
Questions?
Councilmember Herediana?
I thought we already voted on that, or gave direction for that.
As it's proposed in the staff report, so the staff report had it, and so we hadn't had the details, so I'm just
Okay.
getting, if
Okay.
you have any additional questions, let me
Yeah,
know.
I thought it was already finalized, sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza?
No, I think I'm.
I am as well, so I think we've given you adequate instructions, correct?
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that conversation, thank you.
We do have one, comment from the city clerk.
Just one thing, community questions, those would be due on November 13th. I would need to work with my communication specialist, so that way we could have a link on the city's webpage, so that way community members can, enter in their information and then their specific question. If it would please the council, would it be okay if we have that up and running, by this Thursday? If not this Thursday, Monday of next week?
Yeah, that's great. I think we can also, cause, for those people who don't know, the city hosts a, booth at the farmer's market every week. And so also we could take paper or people could, go on, we could show them how to go online and submit it, but another avenue for submitting that.
And then once that's, available online, I will, post that, not only online, but have Greg, our communication specialist, post something on social media, so that way our community members are aware.
Wonderful. I really like to show our appreciation for staff and our city attorney who've worked diligently to get us to this point, so thank you very much for that. And
Thank
thanks,
you.
Thanks for everybody working collaboratively as a team on this, it's a pleasure. So our next, item are reports.
I'm sorry, one more clarifying question is, we wanna provide all of the questions to the candidates in advance of the meeting. Would we wanna provide those, I suggest that we provide them at the time that the agenda is posted in advance of the interviews, is that acceptable?
Yes, that works.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we'll move to item number 3. These are city council initiated items, and these are to fill the vacancy on the external committees, commissions, and boards. I'd like to introduce City Clerk Joel Pablo to present the report. But before we do that, City Clerk, oh, no. Go ahead, myself.
Yes, the next item on our agenda is the city council initiated item, to fill vacancies on external boards, commissions, and committees. This report, was brought forward to us by Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza with the support of Mayor Snow. As you know, as the council knows, the tragic passing of Councilmember Fayai in July of this year created a vacancy, not only on this council, but also created several primary and alternate vacancies on external bodies where Lemon Grove is represented. To ensure Lemon Grove's voice is represented regionally for the remainder of the calendar year, it is recommended that the council make interim appointments to the affected boards, commissions, and committees this evening. So this slide deck here, will show you, what primary, vacancies exist and on what, boards, commissions, and committees, and then also the alternates. Your packet and the accompanying slide deck identify the specific bodies with vacancies and whether a primary or alternate seat is open. Appointments ratified tonight will be effective through December 31st, 2025. In January of next year, Mayor Snow will return with recommendations for appointments to external boards, commissions, and committees. And at that time, the council will discuss and ratify that full roster. As this is a council-initiated item, brought forward by Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor Snow, I will turn it over to them to add on to see if they have anything else to say or initiate council deliberations.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza?
So, first, this kind of mostly affected me because I'm on all these committees. HCFA meets on Thursday, of this week, and I'm the alternate, so I already committed to attending that meeting. And then those meetings are quarterly, and, the Heartland Fire Communication, the training facility is confusing. Okay, thank you. Okay, the fire, so there's two fire boards. One is the Heartland Communications Facility. That meeting is on Thursday, and I already committed to attend that as the alternate. The Heartland Fire Training meeting was, I believe, a week ago, and no one from the council was able to attend. So, I don't know that we really need to appoint someone because there won't be another meeting until January for either of those. Okay? And then, I'm the primary on MTS, and I would like to have an alternate. Those meetings, I just went to a meeting, so those meetings are monthly, so I just attended the October meeting. I'm looking at my calendar, the November meeting is on the 20th. I don't see any, conflict with that. And I believe that we will also have a meeting on December 18th. So if the mayor wants to appoint, someone as an alternate, just in case, and the main thing is, we need to let, the MTS, board clerk know who the alternate is if for some reason something happens. We don't just have a random council member, come to those meetings, and, I would need you, whoever the alternate is gonna be, needs to put those meetings on their calendar. The city school district collaboration committee, we usually have 2 council members, those also are quarterly meetings. We usually have 2, council members go to those meetings. Our next meeting is, actually, I'm not sure, because it was supposed to be tomorrow, I believe, and we're moving it to, either the 29th or November 5th. Those meetings last about an hour, and they usually start at 5:30 p.m. at the school administration offices. And then he was the alternate for Helix Water. So, I don't know, Jessica, you're the primary, so I'll let you speak to that.
The nice thing about the Helix Water, is that it's on Zoom, so I don't usually have a problem tuning into that. It doesn't hurt to have an alternate in case, but I don't foresee a problem for the end of the year until we appoint. And I would like to just say that I'm willing to do, either the 2 that are impacted, MTS, or the school. I'm available for either. It looks like I'm gonna double check, just because I'm on the Sandag Safety Committee.
Before we get to, thank you for that, before we get to the deliberations part and talking about that, I'm gonna, I don't have anything further to add with the presentation portion, so I'll close the presentation and now open it up to public comment. City Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
Mayor Snow, I have no speakers list for this.
Okay, we will close public comment, and now we'll turn to deliberation. I will say that I have 0 bandwidth for anything else, so unfortunately.
I wasn't even suggesting.
So, Councilmember Altamirano and Councilmember Heredia, I'll let maybe the 2 of you duke it out for who wants what.
I am more than honored to take on, some of Councilmember Spaya's, committees. I can be the alternate for the city school district, and I can be the alternate for the Helix Water District.
So we need a primary for the city school district, and we need an alternate for the Helix Water District. Since Jessica's already put primary, would you like to be the alternate then?
I can be that. Are you the alternate on the school district, Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza? Either way, you can put me down.
It's generally two council
be down for that.
Wonderful, and then Councilmember Heredia, you'll be the alternate on MTS, does that work?
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful, that was easy and painless, and thank you for stepping up. I really appreciate it, and the city appreciates it too. Okay, so what we have is, we're not appointing anyone at this time to the Heartland Communications Facility Authority. We're not appointing anyone to the Heartland Fire Communications Facility Authority. We're appointing City Council Member Alta Morano as the second primary to the City/School District Collaboration Committee, and Council Alta Morano as the alternate to the Helix Water District, and Councilmember Heredia as the alternate to MTS. You need a motion on that?
Yes, please.
I would like to make a motion to those appointments as just stated.
The motion was made by Mayor Snow with a second by Councilmember Altamirano. I'll now commit the roll to go on the record. Councilmember Heredia,
Aye.
Councilmember Altamirano,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza,
Aye.
Mayor Snow.
Aye.
The motion carries on a vote of 4-0.
All right, next we have the council member meeting reports. This section of the meeting is dedicated to reports from the city council about meetings attended at the expense of the city. A report is a brief summary of the meetings attended on behalf of our council members in their capacity as a city official. As a reminder, we want to be careful to keep these comments brief and to stay within the boundaries of the Brown Act. This includes matters that are not on the agenda. I'll start with council member Altamirano.
On October 8th, I attended the League of Cities Conference in Long Beach. I met many elected officials, learned a lot about how other municipalities deal with complex topics such as homelessness, streets, infrastructure, grant writing. And I was very impressed just with different cities that presented different ideas. And there was times where I would look at the agenda and I really wanted to split myself in half so that I could be at both of them at the same time. So it was very informational. Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza and I had to leave a little sooner because at the end of the conference, I had work, she had to pick up her grandson, so I was sad not to see Erin Brockovich, the real Erin Brockovich. Yeah, at the closing ceremony for the conference. On October 15th, I attended the East County Economic Development meeting. On October 17th, I attended the ribbon cutting for One Safe Place South. It's a Justice Center. I spoke about it last time in National City. This is the third one, and it was pretty impactful. This center is everything under one roof. They provide therapy, clinic, legal services, pantry, closet, laundry services for victims of any type of abuse, whether it's human trafficking, sexual abuse, domestic violence. The first one opened in San Marcos in 2022, and at the time the county was counting anywhere between 13 to 15 domestic violence murders annually. The following year it dropped to 8, and then last year it dropped to 5. So far this year there's been 0 because there is a place for people to go that need help. And it was amazing. I'm so happy to be able to share this with the community. And they are hoping they get funding to set one up in East County, somewhere in East County. And then after that, I drove over to Saquon, where I attended the Women in Leadership Conference. Mayor Stowe was nominated. There was a lot of amazing women that were nominated there. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Next we'll have,
Sorry, I attended the Mill Kings protest on Saturday as well.
next we have Councilmember Heredia.
October 8th, I had a stand-out briefing. I attended for Mayor Snow, while she was at the Cal Cities Conference. They were doing audits, I guess they're doing audits on a bunch of different stuff, and it was a little bit eye-opening, I'm not gonna lie. But the good news is that, it is basically they're auditing the books from the previous administration that was there, and we have somebody new, and it sounded like a lot of open communication is occurring now with the new, director, and that they're looking at ways to make their processes better. It's really more about, it sounded like it was mostly about like just staffing, not having proper policies and protocols to do and have good follow through through management. So they're working on that, and so I'm hopeful there. And they were gonna talk about strategies and considerations on what capital projects to move forward on due to lack of funding coming in. They're receiving less and less revenue at Sandak. And so, I had actually luckily already seen that conversation, so I didn't really miss it, because I went to the conference that Sandak had, the retreat. Then I also went to, the La Mesa Chamber Salute to Local Heroes, and I ran into our fire chief there. He was honored, and he honored some La Mesa, firefighters as well. And as he was leaving, I said, we need to do this here, and we need to find a way to salute to our heroes, our first responders. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm throwing it out there. Maybe somebody in the community will hear it and say, yeah, let's do it, and spearhead it. Call me. On October 13th, I met with Seth from the Planning Commission, and we just talked about things about around Lemon Grove, some ideas that he had as far as projects he'd like to see move forward. Especially with our downtown area, and that was very exciting ideas he had, so thank you, Seth, for sharing that with me. Then I met on the 17th with Manola from the Planning Commission, but we talked about mostly our personal lives and how much we love Lemon Grove. But we did talk about Lemon Grove too, not gonna lie. Then I went to, on October 18th, the La Mesa Rotary celebrated their 100-year celebration. And the cool part about this was that the RCP owners, I can't remember her name because I only met her for a brief second. Thank you, Kathy Olson. She was there. She's an old Lemon Grove Rotary member. There were actually several old Lemon Grove Rotary members there. And so it was really cool to connect on a different level, and really cool to see a service group that is still never ended for 100 years straight in their community. Really cool and aspiring. Then today I attended the County Board of Supervisors meetings with Councilwoman Altamirano to ask the board to pull item number 11 and explain the concerns that the community has. And the community showed up and really had a presence there. I'm very proud of the community. There was 95 comments left online. That does not include the emails that the Board of Supervisors had received personally. This was just a public agenda comment section. 95 were received, 5 were in favor of the project, the rest were all opposed. This is not the first time that we've seen the community show up to oppose the project, and I'm glad that you came to have your voice heard and put it on the record at the county level. I would like to also thank Supervisor Jim Desmond for pulling the item and allowing the community to have that time and space. So important to have that. And I'd just like to point out that purchasing that property would add an additional $2 million to the taxpayer. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza?
On October 8th throughout October 10, I also attended the California League of Cities annual conference, and I submitted my notes to all of my council members, so I don't have to go through them all here. You can agree, but it's a great conference. You really do learn a lot, and get to meet other council members and mayors. Then on October 16, I attended the MTS board meeting, and we had like a little workshop. We got a community engagement update, and then the board also participated survey about MTS services. We had a presentation on the Imperial Avenue terminal. They're going to be building some affordable housing there, and also reconfiguring, not the actual trolley station, but next to it is a bus station. And right now, there's only 4 or 5 buses that can stop there, and they're reconfiguring it so they can have 13 bus bays, which will really help people as they get off the trolley, not have to like walk a long way. They can just walk across the street and get on their bus that takes them to wherever else they need to go. The housing is being built through a grant with the San Diego Housing Foundation. And the land will actually be rented by MTS there, or through a ground lease. Anyway, very interesting project. Then I attended the Sandag Transportation Committee meeting. We had a presentation. Sandag is doing a transit fare study for MTS and NCTD, North County Transit District. There was quite a lively discussion from the board about whether transit fares should be raised or not. Both transit organizations are running out of money. This is one way to provide more money for the transit district. If you're interested in participating in the survey, it's open until November 11, and it's ridepronto.com. And so if it's easy to remember because the transit pass is called the Pronto Pass. So ride, R-I-D-E, pronto.com. And I urge everyone to participate in that survey. Here. Oh, and then we also talked about extending the Youth Opportunity Pass program. The board was largely, this was just a discussion item, but the board was largely in favor of continuing that, and that's free transit passes for youth 18 years old and under. It's very popular, as you can imagine, and it's also, if the board feels that or the transportation committee, I'm sorry, feels, I'm getting my agencies mixed up, feels that it's really important because it encourages transit use in our youth. Sorry. Well, trouble talking. And then yesterday I attended the LoSAN board meeting. I represent MTS on the LoSAN board. That's the San Diego, Los Angeles, San Luis Obispo train. We received the board goals and initiatives for 26-27, our annual business plan for the next 2 years and budget assumptions, and we got an update on Pacific Surfliner equipment. They're going to be adding train service. So that is all I have.
All right, just before I kick this list off, I did want to take a moment to honor the memory of a La Mesa police officer who lost her life in the line of duty last night. She was only 25 years old, had only been with the La Mesa Police Department since 2024. It's the first line of duty death that they've had in their police department, and it was a really tragic experience. She had pulled over to assist a 19-year-old who had rolled his car when another car came and collided with them both and killed both the 19-year-old and herself at the scene. It was traumatic and tragic, and it was followed by another pedestrian who was also like middle school students who were walking to school, and 3 of them were hit. And it's just, take a moment as we're driving in our communities, slow down, pay attention, turn off your cell phones. Vehicles are, can be deadly weapons, and we really need to be careful of each other and just look out for each other as we're driving. So I just wanted to honor her memory. Her name was Lauren Craven. Next, I'll go on to my report. On October 8th, I attended the Pacific Southwest Association of Realtors Government Affairs Committee to give them an update of all the amazing things that are happening in our city. On October 8th through October 10th, I too attended the Cal Cities event. It was really wonderful to be able to be out there, to learn a lot of new things. If you don't know, this is where, it was from this type of program that we took the idea of the Yifty gift card program, and a reminder to everybody out there that the Yifty gift card program is active and well, and go ahead and buy your gift certificates. We met a lot of really incredible people, everybody who have ideas from being able to paint murals on asphalt, which would be really cool in our downtown Broadway district, to gateways as you enter into our community that say beautiful Lemon Grove on it, and to how to make our planning department digital and move everything online. So there's an incredible opportunity with nuts and bolts of how to make your city better, and a lot of collaboration with different people from all across the state of California. And I did stay for Erin Brockovich, and she's a personal hero of mine, and I got to meet and talk with her after the event, and it was amazing. And so I have like 3 personal heroes in my career, and Erin Brockovich, Ralph Nader, and Elizabeth Warren. And so it was a true honor, and she did not disappoint. Absolutely incredible human being. On October 14th, I attended a preview of the Lemon Grove documentary that was done by Lemon Films. It was really fun. Jessica Hurdy was there with me, and we were joined by one of the largest chow dogs I have ever seen in my entire life. It looked more like a lion than a dog. On October 15th, I attended the East County Economic Development Council. On October 15th, I also attended the Lemon Grove Encampment Resolution Fund, watching the final stage of the first zone be cleaned up. So for those of you who don't know, Lemon Grove, the Regional Task Force on Homelessness, the City of La Mesa, and Caltrans jointly applied for a grant. We received that grant, $8.4 million. And this $8.4 million was created a by name list, so people, we know them by their name, we know their dogs' names, we know their families, their hopes, their dreams. And for those 102 people that are gonna receive these services, they will receive up to 2 years of housing and the additional services. So this means that in that first zone, so we've divided along the 94 corridor, along back there along north, from Broadway, or from Massachusetts and north, all the way down to where the Lemon Grove trolley station is. And it's not just along that corridor, that corridor extends all the way to Broadway. So we're able to capture a lot of people along that corridor. So in that initial zone, there were 32 people. Of those 32 people, on the 15th, 28 had already been permanently housed. They signed leases. They were able to go home. And then on top of that, they received wraparound services. So these people will be able to get, you have drug addiction, you go to rehab, and then you get to go home instead of back to the streets. If you have an uncontrolled diabetes, you're able to go get the medical care you need and then go home, not be released on the streets, go home. And if you have mental and behavioral health issues that you've been struggling to get on your medication, find the right medication and get stabilized, you get that help and assistance, and then you get to go home. Again, not back on the streets. This is incredible, vital care that provides what people really need to be able to heal. So this was a really exciting moment. And it was an exciting departure from the old shuffle people across from one side of the street to the other. You clean one encampment only to have them move to the other side of the street. So it did away with that model. Unfortunately, we still have need. There were 6 people still that were there that were not on that binding list. They did receive outreach services and shelter assistance, but we still have more work to do, and there's still a lot to be dealt with. And if we had something like the Troy Street Project transitional housing while we're looking for permanent housing, those people wouldn't have had to move their tents someplace else. Those people would have been able to go into a warm, safe environment with wraparound services, with the case management they need to be able to accomplish that. Next, I also attended a meeting with Jewish Family Services, and City Manager Lydia Romero was there as well. On October 17th, I attended the Assembly District 79's roundtable hosted here in this very room in Lemon Grove. We had Assemblymember Lachey Sharp Collins, the Sheriff Kelly Martinez, District Attorney Summer Steffen, and the representative from the Public Defenders, a representative from the Probation Department, and different community members and community-based organizations. The Racial Justice Coalition was here. There's a lot of people here, all discussing Prop 36 and some of the challenges with rolling out Prop 36, the additional requirements upon our Sheriff's Department, upon everybody from the lawyers to the sheriffs to the buildings that are accommodating them, and how to try and fix some of those issues. I also attended a mayor's roundtable with the president of San Diego Gas and Electric. A lot of us are really concerned about rising electricity and gas prices. They heard an earful from the mayors, I'll give you that. And we've asked for solutions and support in keeping those rates low and helping, especially people in our community, be able to afford transitions to cleaner, more affordable energy. I also attended the Lemon Grove Food Distribution. I was a nominee as one of the winners, or a nominee for the Women in Leadership Awards held by the East County Chamber of Commerce. And I also attended the premiere at the neighborhood for the Lemon Grove documentary hosted by the neighborhood and Lemontown Films. And then on October 18th, I also did the Lemon Grove Food Distribution. I got to attend the Kaleidoscope Quilt. It's not a brigade. It's a collaborative of quilters here in Lemon Grove, and those women are fierce. Like, there was some amazing, it was art. It was absolutely incredible. Then I attended the East County Transitional Living Center hosted an open house. And then I attended also the No Kings protest. And finally, on October 21st, I attended the County Board of Supervisors meeting today to address item 11 on their agenda, and was able to provide comment at that time. Just to give an update, and I'll post this, but the county issued a press release afterwards that kind of explains in detail what the agenda item was about and what we're dealing with. The county had a lease agreement with Caltrans, and Caltrans reneged on that lease, due in part to pressure from the Federal Highway Transportation Authority, who has, it's right now in the federal government, everything's like moving fast, and you don't know where the mark is because they keep moving it around. So first it was, they were gonna do a dollar lease, and that's what the inked lease agreement was. Then they said, when the new administration came in, they said, no, we're not doing any lease agreements that are not for fair market value. And once they got a fair market value, then they changed it again and said, oh, we're not doing leases anymore, you need to buy it. And so now we have to get a fair market valuation, or that's what the county needs to do, is get a fair market valuation from that. So they estimated it could be up to $2 million. At this meeting, they gave authority to county staff to be able to start the negotiations with Caltrans on what a purchase price for that might be. They also addressed the issue of the definition of public purpose that the Federal Highway Transportation Authority also required. We had a lot of public comment there, and I'm really proud of our city for showing up and speaking their minds and letting the county know what their concerns are related to this project. The county was also able to address some of the issues that had been arisen. There's a lot of information out there on Facebook that is not accurate. And so I highly recommend that people go to the county, to the source of the information, and also remember that we are working as a team, as a city council, to be able to provide guidance to the county. And we've had several closed sessions on this topic, but just know that each and every one of the council members up here is making sure that our city's interests are put to the forefront in those discussions. And with that, I conclude mine. I'll now turn the time over to have our acting city manager, Izzy Murguia, to give his report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick reminder that on October 31st, next week, we have our booth or treat. So bring the little ones for a safe and fun time where they can eat some candy from, it's kind of like a trunk or treat. The event starts at 5:30 to 7:30. There will be a kids zone and food for purchase, and then we will have a movie beginning at 7:45 at the gym. Bring blankets and chairs, and the movie will be Lilo and Stitch. So come on down at the Recreation Center across the street. And then secondly, just a quick reminder, speaking of SDG&E, they are doing nighttime work on Olive between, on Olive between Pacific and Church. They're doing maintenance on a high pressure gas line. And so if you're in the area, avoid the area. There's no road closure, but there is traffic control. So you use alternative streets, and that work should have kicked off already, and it's scheduled to go through October 25th, and a report.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll turn the time over to City Attorney Steinke to adjourn the meeting into closed session.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We are adjourned to closed session for public employee performance evaluation under Government Code Section 54957 for the city manager. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you again.
By the way, if you're across the street today, you would have been recognized only for being close. That's okay. Figured you know, I wouldn't, at West Point, there was